The skills practice for section 4.6 is on equations of lines. We're going to name the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each equation. We're hoping our equation is in the form y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. And that's what we have here. Y equals mx plus b. Your slope, remember, is that lowercase m, and your y-intercept is a lowercase b. What is in the m position? 3. We like our slopes as fractions though, so we'll write it as 3 over 1. What is in the b position? 2. Slope of 3, y-intercept of 2. Why do you need that? Well, if you have a slope and a y-intercept, you can graph equations using a slope and a y-intercept. So look at this one real quick. Notice how the slope is 2. So I'm going to write it as 2 over 1. And the y-intercept is 1. It's really quick to get that information when it's in this form, slope-intercept form. Now we want to graph this. Your y-intercept is 1. So on your y-axis, 1 unit above the origin, that point is on the graph of this equation. Next thing you do to find another point is to use the rise and the run. The rise is 2, so I'm going to count up 2 and then over 1. That gives you your second point. You only need 2 points to make a line. Use a straight edge to connect them. This is the graph of the equation of that line. These points live on that line. Okay, we'll go back up here. Let's look at this example. Y equals x. This one fools people all the time, and it's really, really simple. Imagine that it's y equals mx plus a number. If there's nothing in front of that x, what is really there? The coefficient on that x is a 1. Notice how there's nothing added to it. So if there's nothing added to it, wouldn't it be the same thing as adding 0? You can change this to y equals 1x plus 0. That might seem silly, but isn't it a lot easier to look at now? The slope is 1. So I'm going to write it as 1 over 1. And the y-intercept is 0. Number 5. I'll put a little star beside that one. There's only one variable here. So this is really easy if you can remember what happens when there's only one variable. If x equals 2, your line is going to be vertical. So if there's no y value, the line is vertical. And if the line is vertical, the slope is undefined. So you need a y-intercept now. Well, if this is your y-axis, and this is the graph of your line, it's vertical, is it ever going to touch the y-axis? It's not. So you're not going to have a y-intercept. Don't put 0. The y-intercept is not 0. Sometimes people think, well, I'll put 0 because there isn't one. 0 is a place. Just write that there's no y-intercept, or the y-intercept does not exist. Now, if this made sense, no y value, x equals a number, that's a vertical line. What do you think is going to happen when there's no x value? If there's no x value, this is going to be a horizontal line. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. And the y-intercept is simply that number. So where does this line cross the y-axis? It crosses it at -6. So numbers 5 and 10, put stars beside those. You are going to see those again. You're missing a variable in each of them. There's no real work to do. You just have to understand the concept of a vertical line and a horizontal line. Let's come down to number 11. We want the slope and the y-intercept. Now, this is not in y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form. So you need to do a little bit of work first. And there's not a whole lot of space here to do it in. Get another piece of paper. What I'm going to do is add 4x to both sides. That way I get negative y equals 4x plus 8. I still don't have y by itself. I have negative y by itself. So I want to make it positive. So go ahead and make it positive. But if you're going to change the sign on this guy, then you better change the sign on that guy and that guy. It's the same thing as dividing or multiplying both sides by negative 1. That's your slope. That's your y-intercept. So I'm going to write down my slope as negative 4 over 1. And I'm going to write down my y-intercept as negative 8. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of work to find your slope and y-intercept. It's not always as easy as problems like this. Okay, so number 17 is an example of that. You do not have y by itself, but you can get it there. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So negative y equals negative x plus 4. I'm going to change the sign of everything because I want y by itself. Now I know the slope and the y-intercept. If your y-intercept is negative 4, we'll plot that. Use the slope 1 over 1 to find the next point. And connect them with your straight edge. We do the same thing for number 19. You want y by itself. So we'll subtract negative 2x from both sides. Now you can see the slope is negative 2 over 1, and the y-intercept is negative 1. Plot your y-intercept, then use your rise and your run. I'm going to go down 2 and 1 to the right. Connect those.